And it's really tough on those seniors, you know. So well, is everybody staying safe? Everybody had their vaccination? Not yet? If you do, are you planning? I take that as a no.
Nobody's very talkative today.
maybe I should move this back another hour, huh?
Well, I got mine, and the second dose about wiped me out. I was out for 3 days. So first dose did nothing to me. Second dose, and then of course it was during my spring break, so I couldn't even take time off work. I had to take time off spring break. So yeah, I'm all for that. I've been inoculated.
My second one, the right side of my face swelled up, so it was fun.
Really?
It knocked me out for like 3 days. So yeah.
And which one did you take?
I took the Pfizer.
Pfizer. Okay.
Oh.
The first one I couldn't move my arm up and down, but okay. The second one I swole.
Man.
But I'm okay.
You swelled up on the side that you got your shot on?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was like tingly on my right side, you know.
Ouch. Did you talk to the doctor about that, or did you tell anybody?
Well, they have you check in on the website. I don't know. I did on my phone, but it went away right away.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too worried.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people, that's why, you get the side effects that, a few people are skeptical about that vaccination. But, I was talking to Renee earlier, that I had both mine. The first one was pretty, it knocked me down for about a day. I was really sore, my bones were aching, but I had Tylenol. The second time it was not as, it seems like I never got the shot because I was hydrated 2 days before, and I took Tylenol. So that, I guess those two pieces really helped me out. So.
Yeah, it knocked me out. I was just really tired, like lethargic for 3 days.
I took mine and I felt bad because it didn't really affect me at all. I just had a sore arm the first and the second time around. But I got my last dose beginning of February, my second vaccine, and my daughter actually tested positive with COVID 3 weeks ago. And so just having that vaccine was such a it made me feel safer because I was still precautions of, she was isolated in her room and I was the only one in contact with her, but I didn't have to worry as much about taking care of her and spreading it to the rest of my family. She was the only one who got COVID, and luckily it was a very, very mild case. She just had a fever for 1 day and that was it, and the rest of the time she was just in her room hanging out.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that everybody's safe, and we'll go from there with the safe that we have.
Hello. I'm sorry, Chuck. This is Melinda Nakai. Can you hear me?
Oh yes.
Hi, I'm sorry. I got delayed here. Do you still have time for me to do?
Oh yeah, we haven't started. We're just kind of a little conversation now, so we have everybody on
good.
so far. So again, everybody has an agenda. We're going to go according to what the agenda says. Again, this is a welcome. And again, I hope everybody's safe and healthy. And we're going to go through the welcoming as well as the tribal consultation. Now, those are the handouts that I sent out yesterday. And Sarah Young is going to present another funding source for everybody. So this funding source would be something that you may be able to apply for through your school district. And we're going to basically just kind of give you some steps on how the how-tos. And number 4 is that we're going to have a little bit of updates as to what's going on out there and, you know, how the schools are doing. And, you know, I guess one of the big questions I have is that, you know, sometimes the seniors, you know, they've been cheated out last year, and, you know, some of the seniors this year are going to be cheated out again because they may not have a large gathering. So, you know, we think back to our graduation years, we had that as a big, large celebration for everybody to partake. So, and we'll go from there. Now, I ask Eddie to give us a spiritual thought or a prayer, or, you know, again, for those people who are new, this is an American Indian approach to when we do gather people together. We'll always offer a prayer or a thought or a reverence. And you know, I like to I like to stay with that concept because, you know, again, this is our tradition, and these are things that we were taught as we were growing up, and things that are taught, especially when we do have American Indian people coming together as a whole group. So, Eddie, could you offer that for us, and we'll go from there.
Oh, yeah, it happened. You know, growing up, I was raised a traditional way, and just the other day, my sister called me and said that one of my nephews needed a ceremony, and they needed certain items for the ceremonies to happen. And I remember growing up, you know, just all the things that the preparation to get to that point. And like Chuck said, you know, that's part of who we are as Native people, you know, prayers and offering up, always giving our Creator the credit for all that we have and that we are given. And you know, I was converted to Christianity, but I still support my family and all that they do when they ask for help. I'm right there with them. I also work with at a residential treatment center, and I don't know. This past year, I started doing emotional growth with these young people, and I think that that's to me that's very important. You know, to feed our spirit the proper things that we need to move forward here on this earth. And so I'm grateful for the teachings in both sides of traditional and the Christianity side. And my grandfather, he was a medicine man, and then he was converted to Christianity also, but he was always supportive and, you know, helped out at these different ceremonies. And so I'm just following his example and, you know, carrying on the things that we've been taught and raised with. Anyways, that's my little part that I just wanted to share with you all. I'll go ahead and say the prayer now. Shajay Ashatahanloni Dikkel Planasit Levi Bahitanitsan Do Kodo Hol Ago Khandahat Ahagi No Hat Ishi Nihich Endahast Igi Ben Hikadil was Dikadon Halchin Hitzok Ken Himalakadon Halchin Also Nachab Bikasint lead on this. So Nishito no Nachada Altkhado Adishin Hindanishi Nika Adil was Kodo Adishi and that Nithagi Ratchen Bashishadili or Hol Agoyedal Nitoles. So yat Negetin Egido Hat Eoshin Nature in the Hast Ego Nekadil was Nedishinash Negilo. Nacha Nekadil was. So Nehinne Dort Ishin Nehinda Hat Agi Nachadisil the Bendan Nikadistra or Kadishin Manhitten Nikagi Nehelistra the little bedil Nicto little Ago Ishini Natched that didn't know this. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Eddie. That's good. I really like that piece where you have the tradition being carried through your family, both as a traditional point of view as well as Christian, because, my grandfather basically almost said the same thing. We have different approaches, but we all end up at the same place. So we have that taken care of now. Melinda Nakai from the FBI has a brief project that she's going to be working on, or is presently working on. So I'm going to have her introduce herself and introduce her project. Is Melinda there?
I am here. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I am really honored to be here. Thank you again. You guys have taken me as a visitor before, and I always appreciate that. So thank you for your time. So I will be brief. I wanted to make an announcement. The FBI Salt Lake City Division is going to host a FBI Teen Symposium. It's going to be a virtual event via Microsoft Teams. The dates are going to be April 22 and April 23. That's a Thursday and a Friday. The program will start at 3 o'clock on both days, ending at 6 p.m. So from 3 to 6 each day. Right now, the applications are being accepted through next Friday, April 2nd. We are talking just this morning about extending that to April 9 because a lot of our students are going to be on spring break.
Yeah.
The application, there's a packet. It includes the student application. There is going to be an essay requirement. The question to write to is going to be included in the packet. And then there are some forms, some release forms to be signed by the student themselves and their parents. The applications can be sent to an email address, and that is SU, like Sierra Uniform, _ outreach, all one word, at FBI.gov. So SU_OUTREACH@FBI.gov.
Okay.
The program we're going to be offering is going to include a curriculum covering FBI jobs, the evidence program, domestic terrorism, behavioral analysis, cyber topics, internet crimes against children, civil rights, SWAT, and I'm going to try to get a an activity where the participants will break a code. And the teacher of that particular presentation is actually a Seneca person from New York, and she is a forensic scientist at our Quantico Laboratory Division in Virginia. So I am excited to share this with you this morning. I am hoping that you might be able to share this with other educators in your areas, as well as students. My name is Melinda Nakai, and my email address is M like Mary, F like Frank, NAKAI2 @fbi.gov. And my telephone number is 801-579-6014. You are welcome to call me with any questions, and I am looking forward to working with each of you. Thank you so much for your time, and that is the end of my brief.
Melinda, a couple questions. Is there, if you could get information to me or Renee, and that will be sent out to everybody, if that's possible. You know,
sure.
like
I did send out. Go ahead.
And you know, we did. You know, if we get this coordinated, and I think that just give everybody an update on that also.
Is
Okay.
this event just for high school students?
Oh yes, I am so sorry. Yes, this high school, this event is for high school juniors and seniors.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
there is going to be, yes, and the invitation is going to be open to students in Utah, Idaho, and Montana. So
Okay,
we are, there is going to be a selective competitive process. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love to give you pointers and tips to give to your students as well.
Hey, Thomasia, you had a question?
I just asked her. I didn't know if it was just for all high school students or, but she answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much. I will get that information out, and at that website, the Salt Lake City FBI website too. I'm sorry, I left off another important piece there. The Salt Lake City FBI office will have the application posted. Yeah. So if you go online and go there and go under community outreach, the application will be there. And most likely the deadline will be extended, but I can't confirm that right now because they're working on it.
Okay.
But as it stands right now, it's April 2nd, but if you check back, it'll probably say April 9. But again, my phone number, 801-579-6014. You can call that and I will be able to update you some more.
Okay, if you could get that again, the information to Renee or myself, and we'll get it out to the coordinators. Hey, appreciate that, Melinda. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go to the next item. Let's the tribal consultation piece. And I think this is information. Now, let me give you a little bit of background for those people who are new. The Office of Indian Education, as well as the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, they were working together in terms of supporting Indian education in all the states. So the Office of Indian Education were charged to develop a plan to help with the process within that ESSA department, with the Department of Education. Now, when that charge came down to each state, what we did was, this happened about 4 years ago. We got all the coordinators in one room, and we had some ideas put on the board. And all these ideas came from the Title VI coordinators. And as we put the information on the board, we start to put these into blocks. In other words, there's one large heading, and you have a lot of the activities within that block. And what we wanted to do here when we put this project together was that how this program and how this plan will help our American Indian students, and how effective this program will be when we roll this out. So we've been using this piece there when we do converse with the tribes. And when we do converse with the tribes, they also have this document, and a lot of it is that it's just basically questions that they'll ask, and oftentimes the questions that they ask are within those blocks, in those headings. So I think this tribal consultation, we're one of, in the Southwest, I think there were only 2 that submitted a tribal consultation document. That was Utah and Nevada. So you still, within our region, we have California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. And California and Arizona, basically, I assume that they're still working on their tribal consultation. And I've been talking with the folks in Oklahoma as well as New Mexico because of their turnover. What does this consultation look like? So I send them the information that we had and gave them a background also. And they were quite surprised because in those states, they really don't involve the Title VI coordinators. They write it from the state office. My approach is a little bit different. I think that anytime that we have something that rolls out throughout the whole state that affects all our Indian students in the schools and teachers and administration, school districts, that if they're going to buy into this, we have to involve the Title VI, because they're on the front lines and they are in the trenches. They see what goes on and how the program should go. And that's always been my approach. So I'm not swaying away from that today. That's the reason why I send you that information as a reminder yesterday. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this whole process. We're going to make some updates. Whether it's deleting or additions. But I think this document is very, very important to us. I even had the superintendent of USBE, they asked for this document, and I've had an opportunity to talk about this document and talk about you Title VI folks here in Utah, because you guys do a lot of the work. It's no credit for me. It's the credit goes to all you folks out there, because you guys are in the front lines with our students. So basically, that's the background that we have for those people who are new to the program. Again, this was developed in 2017. And I think I feel that we did a very, very good job. You guys actually did a very good job. And my part was that just putting it together like a puzzle. And that's where we're at right now. Now, Renee has the document. And you might have it sitting beside you. You know, this is a document, again, it's the Utah State Board of Education, Title VI Indian Education Tribal Consultation Plan. This is the Every Student Success Act, ESSA. And the suggestion was that, you know, we lead in to this document with some information. And what I did was I got to the point in terms of why this information was put together with introduction, just some background. At the time that this was put together with the ESSA from the Department of Education, President Obama was in support of this process. And you see that little information that he has written at the top. And this, the second paragraph is information and how it came to be. It started out as No Child Left Behind and reauthorized, and now they call it something else, but still fitting within the Public Law 114/95. And the third paragraph is just some of the things that the ESSA plan includes. And again, this was, I did some research on this as to how we could approach this whole process and making sure that we get to the point. And this is basically what I found with those little dots there. The third portion of that of this document is the tribal consultation itself. In the ESSA plan, there's section 8538 Public Law 114/95 that indicates that our school districts, the Title VI, should have a tribal consultation. And I think this is something that comes out when your grant is written. I think that if I'm wrong, someone please correct me. Because when you guys submit your formula grant application, there's a piece there that whether you had tribal consultation or not. But this tribal consultation, you know, has a few things written in that consultation, and these are suggested in terms of what the consultation should look like. You find number one, you know, it's in black bold letters, consensus-based decision-making, and it has a little bit of explanation on that. You have number 2, 3, and 4. They're all bold letters written. Act with respect, know the native communities, and sustain progress. So again, this has all been researched through the National Indian Education Association. This was written in 2017. The third part to that is the affected LEAs, the local agencies. And it gives a little bit of description as to who should have the consultation, absolute consultation with the tribe. You can see that in the two black dots there in the middle of the page. It's an enrollment of those students, those school districts who have 50% of American Indian students in their school district, and those school districts receiving more than $40,000 from the Office of Indian Education. That's the criteria right now. And I think they waived the other. They waived the other requirement was the requirement was that it's with your tribe that is 50 miles from your school district. And you know, you look at our state. You know, sometimes we're more than 50 miles from a local tribal group. So. But those two that we have there is the 50% and the $40,000. That is the absolute. We have to have that absolutely consultation. Now there are other school districts that don't fit this criteria, but they still have that consultation with their local tribe, like with the Goshute and the Tooele School District. And last week I had an opportunity to sit in with the Tooele School District, and Stephanie Raleigh was the lead on that project. And I thought that came out really well. You know, it was a lot of good comments were made, and it was an outstanding presentation. The third part of that is the consultation should be timely. You know, when I talk about the timely stuff, is the 4 bullets there. And we'll talk a little bit about this as we get through the document. You know, the things that we came up with in Utah is that strengthening tribal assurance. And we have some underlying documents on that. Creating and strengthening education programs. Provide funding for American Indian Alaska Native students. And these are all disclosed in the appendix, which we'll get to in a few minutes. And the third writing is the meaningful consultation. And we do have 4 bullets on that. And it's basically to empower. You know, we like to have communication between the LEAs, the Title VI, and the tribe. You know, we share this understanding between the school community to sustain and address the concerns. That's a big one. Because again, that's something that the tribe will support, and I think that if the tribe supports that, you know, it's something that they like to see because of their interest in their children, and provide tribal leaders and the community members with regular updates. And oftentimes I do this during the tribal leaders meetings. We have that 4 times a year. And oftentimes I do get an opportunity to bring the tribal leaders up to date on things that are happening in Utah with Indian education. So that's basically the first portion of that. Now, the second portion, let's go down to that, the appendix. Now, this is where you're the Title VI coordinators, you're going to come in here and help us with this process in terms of making some updates. Like I indicated before, you know, the tribal consultation, you know, there were 3 pieces to that, which I just which we just talked about a little while ago. Strengthening tribal assurance. Within that tribal assurance, we do have those little asterisk marks there are what fits within that tribal assurance. Let me give you an example, like innovation programs, which is the tribal assurance that we as a group came up with, the data sharing with the tribes, professional development in service training. Now I think you have the gist of this, because as we turn the page, we'll see that that's happening on the second page too. But let's deal with this tribal consultation part with the tribal, strengthening the tribal assurance. Let's go with the innovation programs, community service, read along, powwows, pageants, etc. Do we have any additions or questions on 1 through 7? Okay, I guess I take that as a no. So let's go down to the next one. It's the data sharing with the tribes. When we do share any information, we have a. Okay, go ahead, Eileen.
I was wondering, are there any other tribes that are offering tribal language besides Navajo that our programs have access to?
You know, I think the Oregon, Washington, Montana, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico that I know of. Those are my contacts.
I mean, here in the state,
okay.
Or the Utes, or the Shoshones, or the Paiutes, do any of those tribal nations offer some kind of tribal language program that we can use within our programs?
Yeah, let me ask Mike how his program's coming along with the Paiute. And after that, Amanda, I think you guys have something going on with the Utes also. So Mike, do you have some updated information for us on that?
Sure. We're in our 4th year of a Southern Paiute language class. But we teach with, a lot of you remember Karma Grayman. She's our instructor. We videotape that and we post it on our website. The Paiute tribe has given the blessing to do that. We share all the information with them. We're still in our what do you call it, the basic mode of our infancy. We have vocabulary cards and some sentence strip cards that we're trying to create. There is no high school credit for it, and right now most of our kids that attended are elementary, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. Like questions, help, clarification? I don't know. That was a quick overview. Charlene John could jump in more. She does the filming and attends the class when it's held.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Mike. Amanda, do you have an update with? I remember when Gloria Thompson, she had a program going out there with the with one of the, I can't remember what the Duchesne High School, I believe.
Yeah, we have, unfortunately, we haven't been able to have that in our class, in our school. We just haven't been able to find anyone to fill Gloria's shoes there. But our community does do a Ute language course, and it's on Zoom Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6. You don't get credit for it, but I think you gain a whole lot more. And it's just open to everyone in the community.
Okay. And I think I can probably speak for Tooele. A few years ago, we did have a language class with the Ivapaw Elementary School. We had a local speaker who was retired from their service, and she came in as a volunteer first, and we encouraged her that a stipend would be better for her. She was consistently at school. I believe it was in the afternoons for anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And they developed a book with the Ivapaw language. They in that language class also presented a Christmas program at that time. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So the effort that we're like, what I'm doing is I'm seeking from the tribal leaders, the speakers, the native speakers from their tribe. We do find the speakers, but it's the consistency is that we have a problem with, where they could come in every day and teach, whether it's before, during, or after school. So that's basically where we're at with the language piece now. I think that we can probably push that a little harder and be a little bit more aggressive to do what like with the Navajo language class is doing. They have that on virtual Zoom, and they do get credit for that, and that's the duration is practically almost a year of that Navajo language being offered. So that's where we're at with that language piece there. Now, the second part of that is the data sharing with the tribes. We just got to be aware that this is a FERPA issue, or a FERPA area where we have to be very careful as to how and what information is going to be shared. And each one of the school districts, they do have that FERPA law. Just kind of be aware of that and know what the law is when they do have that sharing with the tribes. And we do have sharing with the tribe from the USBE. we share data with the Navajo tribe, because the Navajo tribe would like to have some of the information such as test scores, attendance, graduation rate, and some of the information in terms of where these students go once they graduate. And what I understand is that they don't use the names. A lot of it is associated with numbers. They give everybody numbers. It's not their social security number or census number. It's numbers that they are given. And I believe that might be the school numbers that they get. And that's where we meet that FERPA law. And both ends have to have that FERPA law enforced. USBE giving that information out, and the Navajo tribe receiving that. They also have to have a receiving docket. So is there anything that we'd like to add on that? Okay, let's go to the next, professional development in-service training. And I know that a lot of you, you guys do that training with your faculty, staff, in your school district. Oftentimes that's where we represent the American Indian community, the concept, beliefs, values, and traditions that we could say this is it's not congruent with our way of life, and sometimes that the schools, they overstep their boundary. And I think a few of you have experienced that. But here, what we want to do is that to provide some type of training. The training that we do with our school districts. I've done a couple of them here at USBE. With the food service people, as well as the Title I folks in our department. So those are the 6 things. Is there anything that we'd like to add or question on the 1 through 6? Okay, let's go to the next, the parent engagement, participation, involvement. This is basically the how-tos. I know that the parent committee training for this pandemic era, year, or this, the phase of what's going on, we haven't, that I know of, that we haven't had that parent consistency with meeting with them, and I think that pandemic has really, really caused havoc to everybody. It's something that hopefully around the corner that we can start meeting together again. I understand that. This home visits is basically the same thing. We had a little bit of training in that Title VI training with 506 forums, coordination, attendance, social events. And I know that with USBE, they ask for personnel at USBE, with a large gathering, we should not be in attendance with that, because again, they like that social distancing and so on and so forth. I know that you guys all have cultural nights also. And is there anything that you guys have out there that we could add to this parent engagement, participation, and involvement?
I just have a general question for everyone. One of the problems that I've been encountering, since doing the Title VI is the roadblock that I get from the parents, as far as, and I kind of understand some of their situations. Like the parents that we have right now have grown up in boarding schools and have really didn't have the opportunity to have their parents around to model how to parent their kids. And, that's one thing that's really been a roadblock for me. They don't know how to parent their kids or how to handle their kids when they run into problems with them. And And a lot of them just throw up their hands and say, you know what, do what you want to do. And I don't know what else I can do with you.
Mm.
Anybody have any suggestions on that?
Eddie, this is Amanda. One of the things that I've noticed this year, especially this year, is we're not getting as much parent participation with things. So this year, remainder of this year, I'm really wanting to revamp my program on what's helping and what's not. And I feel like right now, with the way my program is structured and with COVID, we have to, it is vital that we restructure our program to fit this new environment. And one of the things that I've noticed is parents are not wanting that responsibility of taking kids to school, taking this. So they've really relied on our program, but our program really relies also on parent participation. And so we've had a lot of parents who are upset with us because their kid's not graduating, but where we've tried to reach out to parents, they're not receptive of our help. But there's an expectation that we're there to educate their kids, but they're not understanding that this is a relationship. It takes as much as their help to educate as it does ours. And so next year, one of the things I really want to focus on is restructuring the program to where I've taken that understanding of that cultural trauma into perspective with this new revamp, I guess. And now I really want to focus on educating the parents and empowering parents and students on the way school works, because one of the things that I've noticed is they don't know how school works. They don't know how those credits count. And even in junior high, I'm looking at data now, and I have junior high kids who, if they were in a high school setting, they would not be on track to graduate because they failed their core classes. So now I want to go back and re-educate the parents and the students on how school works, because unfortunately from our historical trauma, we didn't learn that. We're modeling what grandma has done or grandpa, which is not being active in the schools because of their experience with school. Those are my thoughts. I'm in the same lane as you, trying to revamp things. So that's just what I have come up with so far. I don't know if it's the right answer, but I'm trying to figure out something.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Just like you said, the government's taking our, either the grandparents or the kids that, and so to them, their view is the school is in charge of the schooling part, and that's how they view it. And somehow we need to change that mentality, I guess, that it's everybody. It's not just, I mean, it started out that way, that, the government forced everything on the native population, but now things have changed. And yeah, I understand. Thank you.
I have a comment. This is Wendy Peterson. I'll turn my video on. Last year, we had planned to do home visits for junior high students, just to kind of go engage with the parents. And it was kind of along the same lines that Amanda was talking about. We wanted to kind of give them some of that school information so that they would kind of know how to navigate the school and know what to expect. So just in order to get it into the homes and to make it more of a positive thing, we purchased backpacks for our junior high students with school supplies. So it didn't work out the best last year because of the whole COVID thing. We were able to do a few visits, and I think the parents really appreciated, the fact that we were coming out and making that personal contact and just giving them that information. And then they would know that, we are here, we can contact them if they have other issues, because I feel like they really want to have kind of that personal contact rather than going into a big giant school and not knowing anybody. But yeah, I think, you know, one place to start is maybe with the home visits, just in the idea of going out and maybe giving them something so they feel like it's a positive thing, and just kind of see where they're at and giving them some of that information.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. I think we picked up on a few things here. You know, I think that it's the parent again that my thought is that we can't blame the school anymore. We have to blame ourselves as parents, and because we're the first teachers. So that, you know, with that concept, I think we could all work something where we can work something in where we like to approach the parents and have the parents approach to education a little bit more and awareness, if you will. Thank you for your comments. And let's go to number B, creating and strengthening educational programs, 1 through 6. I have one that I could add here because I think basically everybody has that going. It's the student conferences. So for me, that would be number 7, student conferences. The awareness of ACT preparation, Title VI tutoring lab, you know, preparation, develop partnership across school districts, access to assessment data, educational parent summit. Yeah, that's a good one there. You know, if we decide to have possibly one large area where we have regions, where we invite all the parents, and that would be one of our objectives for next year. And access to language and cultural education. And, you know, I think everybody's always seeking that. And for me, number 7 is student conferences. Any questions or additions to this? Okay, let's go down to the next, is to provide bilingual, bicultural programs and projects. And I think that all 1 through 9 all speaks for itself, but I like to focus in on number 7, sharing native cultural resources. For me, that's a parentheses, workshops, comma, in-service, comma, and training, parentheses. Okay, any other comments on that? Anybody?
Chuck Microcenti here.
Okay.
Let me turn my camera on for a second so you guys can see me. Same on this sharing cultural resources and things. I've been working with some teachers and some librarians and things. We need to have more of a formal list or training. For example, in 7th grade is Utah Studies. Sometimes when they do their standard 1, which talks about American Indian cultures in Utah, sometimes they're sharing some stories that they've found from on the internet or something, and they're saying, well, this is what the Navajo believe, or this is what the Utes believe, or whatever tribe. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is that some of those stories are seasonal and may not be appropriate to be talking about like in August. But I don't know how to find that out. So it's hard for me to turn around to the 7th grade Utah Studies teacher and say, have you verified that story? And has it been approved by the tribe for you to share in August? Did that question make sense?
Oh, yes.
And the response I got was, my university professor handed it out to me 30 years ago. So I'm using it. And I'm like, well, who authorized the university professor in your educational class that was okay? Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
I need some thoughts or input.
Yeah,
I'm currently kind of working on that.
Well, I think that, you know, this is just my input, is that, you know, it's the beliefs and values and the traditions of the American Indian. There's certain parts of the year we do have stories. There's certain stories that we share, and there's certain stories we don't share certain parts of the year. So I just kind of leave it at that. And I think maybe, go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, besides that, I was just wondering about the fourth grade program again. I thought I had told our district to go use the new one that they had placed out, but they're going back and using the old one. And it was told to all our fourth grade teachers, that they could use the old one. So now we're having to go and make sure everything's appropriate on the Native American song on the fourth grade program. Has the USBE disapproved that first one or approved the second one, the Utah program? You know what I mean? For the fourth grade?
Yeah, I need some written documents on that too, because I'm getting feedback when we did the training and asked them to stop singing that song.
Yeah.
I've got some very, very angry fourth grade people. And
us too.
It would be nice if there was an actual statement written or something on an official state site, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm with you.
We need to work on that fourth grade program.
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
Paul.
I just put a note to myself. I'll look into that.
Eileen wants to talk.
Okay, Eileen.
You know, we Tia and I did a workshop for Salt Lake City art teachers, and it goes into some of the do's and don'ts of appropriate things that you can cover, and what you can share with, you know, your audience. Their audience is a little bit different than the audience that we teach. We work specifically with American Indian tribes, whereas they work with all students within a school district. But we did do a workshop regarding that, and it's on YouTube. I have Nebo School District Indian Ed has their own YouTube channel, and it's called Nebo Title VI Indian Education. And if you go into that channel, that presentation that Tia and I did is recorded and it's on there. And I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to make our own. We can't wait for things just to fall into our laps. Mm-hmm. So I really, in Navajo, I was always taught, when you do it yourself, then you're taking care of business. So that's always been my motto. Yeah. And so what I did is I was invited, my Indian Ed program was invited to Spanish Fort Junior High presentation about Indian Removal Act. Well, I didn't like the way that they were going at it. It was too watered down. None of the perspective from Indian voices was heard. So we went in and we actually covered the information about the Trail of Tears, and then ended with Utah's experience of Indian removal. We recorded that, and that also is on that Nebo Title VI Indian Ed YouTube channel. And so if you want to use that, you're sure welcome to do that. I think what we need to do is we have to start making our own, because if we keep waiting for somebody to do it, it almost always never happens. And it's not something that's good for our area, because we live right here in Utah, and we are the only ones that live right here in Utah. So we know the atmosphere, we know the society here, the culture and everything. So that's my take on that.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome to share and use and adapt what we've done for your programs. That's how I learned in Indian Ed 20 years back. I watched what other programs did, and then I just adapted it to my program.
Yeah,
Okay.
in my district, sorry, this is Sarai. They called me and they said, well, why can't you come and sit with us and let's revamp that Native American part? But I honestly feel that it would be better coming from at least the group of us, and not just myself or my district, you know what I mean? Just like Eileen said, I think that's something that we should prioritize to work on.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think this is probably something that we could probably, one of these coordinators meeting, we can start to formulate that idea and how to do that, at least give us a foundation to build from. So thank you. We go to the next, transition and tracking students from elementary through post-secondary education. We have 5 items there. Again, I don't have any additional information with that. And if you do, please let me know. Grant writing, working closer with school district support services, check and connect programs, tutoring mentors connections, homework nights. Those are, I think those are some of the things, and possibly, we could probably add a 6th there that it comes to my mind is that the student or no, the parents, naming a little piece of that, maybe parent involvement. Okay, I just added parent involvement to that. The next highlight is the partnership and institution of higher education and technical programs and etc. Education pipeline programs. I think the local colleges and universities, they do a pretty good job with especially around the area of Salt Lake. They'll always invite, they have something going on, they'll always invite the local school districts as well as the Title VI programs. In certain colleges, university, they do also have college prep programs as well as the TRIO programs. At times I see that universities now for those outlying areas, I'm not so sure how that all pans out. Like, is Amanda from Gran out there?
Hi, I am. Yes.
Okay. Could you enlighten us if you do have something like that going on? If not, how could we help?
That's a great question. I am still learning so much out here. Fortunately, the U of U is building a campus. As we speak, they broke ground a little bit ago. So we have been working really close with them on a lot of programming. They've actually already been starting programs at the high school in the CTE building this year while they're getting up and going. So I don't really know what we have now, but I know that in the future we have really good relationships and opportunities to build.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's the key word is relationships, to build. I think that's a couple key words there, and just kind of keep in mind that those colleges and universities that are local, and they're really important for our Title VI students, because again, that's our objective is to get them on into higher ed, technical, vocational, even in the military programs. So, but we do have 7 or 9 of those items there. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that piece there, because again, this is the post-secondary kids will kind of reach out. So let's go to the next. Activities that include and support cultural language development and traditions. We do have 1 through 8. They're the novel language class, government class, the family nights, participation with Governor's Summit, arts and crafts classes, sacred images projects, Unity Club, and the powwows. So if there's no comments on that, let's move to the next.
Dr. Foster, I have a question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I was going to ask you, are we going to be having one of those USBE organized tribal consultation days, or are we to use this document?
All right, Matthew. I think, Matthew, you need to check your email.
I mean, I might need to check my email.
Yeah. I do have a list that was submitted to me, and I'll put your name on that list, Matthew.
That would be glorious, Dr. Foster, and thank you so much.
Oh, you bet. And that's gonna be with the Go Shoot Tribe. And I don't know if Charlene Pete is on board here, or is she listening in, or Ozzy. Just give you a heads up that we are planning to have a tribal consultation with the Go Shoot Tribe after the spring break, because I was asking for information on spring break information, dates and stuff. And I got a little over, I think there were 14 that answered my question, and I'm trying to plan for that consultation. That's where things are beginning to fall into place. So yes.
Oh, I answered that one. I remember. I sent that email answering.
All right, maybe it's on my part, Matthew. I apologize. But I will include you in that, and that's being put together. So any other comments on that?
I do. With the Paiute down in Cedar, is that just going to be Iron County? Is that going to be Washington, Richfield, and Millard that's going to be involved in that?
I didn't hear anything. Well, I think Washington have theirs with the Paiute tribe down in Washington County. Iron have theirs with the Paiute tribe right there in Cedar City. And I haven't heard anything from Sevier or Millard. But I'd be certainly.
I can speak on Washington County if you'd like. We've already had our consultation with the Paiute Indian tribe via Cedar City. We met 2 weeks ago over Zoom with chairman, business administrator, and educational person. So we do that on a regular yearly basis.
Right.
Eddie, I don't know why Iron County and Washington County, we don't coordinate that, but we meet yearly. So, and then we participate in the education committee meetings when possible. So, so I don't think Dr. Foster sets up the Paiute meeting. I think the individual districts do. At least I do.
Yeah, I set the one up with Iron, so I think we're good with that. I think we can plan on for next year, that possibly we could get the 2 or 3 school districts there to converse with the Paiute tribe.
And Chuck or Dr. Foster, are you okay if I invite the principal from my high school to be involved in that?
Oh, you bet. Invite everybody that you can. Again, this is transparency. I think the more they know about the consultation and what the tribe is thinking, and some of their recommendations, and the school district hearing their recommendation, I think it makes the program a lot more smoother and easier. And it's the partnership that I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Comprehensive related services. We do have those programs here, number 7, 1 through 7. And we have, oftentimes we do have the American Indian kids are into one of those, one of the 7 sometimes. So, we just, we're just cognizant that they are being serviced by the other services that are offered. Increase attendance and high school graduation rates. And we do have 7 of those recommendations there. Now, the question that we may have coming up is the graduation rates. How are our seniors doing out there this year?
Well, hey, Dr. Foster, hate to interrupt.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mike, you're muted.
Oh, how's that? Can you hear me now? Can you see my hand? I think you're supposed to change that Title 7 to Title 6. I think it's just a typo there.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Under comprehensive related services. It was probably Title 7 when we wrote this article, but the new law is Title 6, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
good catch,
sorry,
Mike. Thank you.
Just a typo thing.
Yeah. Good catch, Mike. Now, any comments on the graduation for our senior students?
Dr. Foster,
Yes.
Melissa Cavalcant with UNS School District.
Uh-huh.
We're seeing a little bit of everything. We're seeing some students. I'm working with the online school right now, and we've seen 4 students graduate early, which is super exciting. Within our tutor mentor schools itself, we're seeing a little bit of a slide where, we started to lose them last year during the COVID thing, and then now we're seeing them not do anything. They didn't do anything over this summer, and it's a mix of everything this year, unfortunately. Yeah. And we're a little nervous about our seniors.
Yes.
Dr. Foster, this is Sarai from Davis School District again. We're having the same issues. Our online actually did really bad. All of our native kids that went online just tanked. We are trying to work with them, and our Davis Connected is just struggling because they had an influx. We lost about maybe 20 of our students to inactivity. They either didn't go to school or didn't log on to their Davis Connect. So we've been trying to figure that out. But the good thing is our district actually came out this week saying that last year's 3rd and 4th term, they're going to pass everybody. They're going to give everybody a pass. So that's going to help a lot of our seniors and high school kids. Because they really our grades tanked, and I believe that our graduation percentage is going to tank as well, from what I can see right now. So it's been hard.
Yeah, I think that's been probably across the board. That's really that hit all school districts, whether you're American Indian student or not. It's across the board. And if you look at the test scores with ACT, SAT, graduation, assessment scores across the United States, basically, it raised a lot of havoc. So I understand that. So if we don't have any other comments on 1 through 7, let's go to the last page here. I have a few things here before. Is Sarah on? Sarah Young? Okay, she's not. So
I am Dr. Foster.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, could we finish up? If you could give us about 5 minutes here, and then we'll
get to that sounds
okay, you
great.
can listen in on what we're doing here.
That sounds wonderful.
The last piece is the providing funding for the American Indian Alaska Native students. and to increase recruitment, retention, highly qualified teachers and administrators. Number one, we have to change that a little bit. That's going to be the American Indian Education Amendments. That's SB 124. That funding is provided to Uinta School District and San Juan School District, and they provide funding for their needs for teachers, in service, transportation, student development, parent involvement, and test. What I think I said that it's professional development for their teachers. So, and I also like to add 5, 6, and 7 to that group. It's Utah grants, the Office of Indian Education Grants, and number 7 is ESSER, ESSER 2 grants that Sarah is going to be talking about in a few minutes. So what I'll do is add those 5, 6, and 7 to that group. Is there anything that also needs to be added to that group? Okay, the last piece to that is the state and national conferences, workshops, in-service, etc. Funding for state and national conferences. Number 2 is the Heritage Language Conference. I think when we first started out, Clayton mentioned that this was an indigenous language, but as the years went on, that changed to the Heritage Language Conference. We have number 6, or number 3 is the active membership. And I think the membership that is referred to is with the NIEA, which I believe most of you guys belong to, which I like to add 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is the NIEA, the National Congress of American Indians, NCAI membership, the NAME, NAME, the National Association for Multicultural Education, and the last one, number 7, is the Language Symposium Conference that is developed, and it was by Danny. So those are the only 4 things I'd like to add to that. Is there any other? Do you guys have any other that you guys belong to or attend or like to see?
Dr. Foster, this is Amanda. What was the second one you said after NC and NCIA?
It's the NIEA was the 4th one. The 5th one was the National Congress of American Indians, NCAI. The 6th one was NAME, the National Association for Multicultural Education. And number 7 was the Language Symposium Conference. Okay, is there any other questions or comments or additions? Okay, the last piece there is objectives. In those you have 1 through 5, and those are some of the things that we meet and some of the obligations that we have as Title VI coordinators. And I took this out of the NIE Tribal Consultation Guide in 2016. So that's what we have right now. The last piece, if you could bring that up, Renee, is the Affirmation Tribal Consultation for Local Education Agencies. That's the Title VI programs. This is just basically a document that indicates that you did have the consultation with the tribe for those people who are required. Now, for those people who are not required, you can also do this piece, and this is for documentation purposes. This form doesn't really go anywhere other than into your file. This is a form that was made up from back in, again, that 2017. And, just to go over that is the name of the LEA, the tribal organization that you're meeting with, and some of the general rules and some of the laws within the ESSA, because this consultation is by law. And the second page is this things that we talked about just a few minutes ago: strengthening tribal assurances, creating and strengthening educational programs, and the last is providing funding for American Indian Alaska Native students. And then, of course, you have the signatures if we do have face-to-face. And I think last year we had that there's Xerox going back and forth last year for those people who met with the tribes. And the LEA representatives, which is the Title VI coordinator and possibly their supervisor. So I don't think we need to add or delete anything from that, because I feel that this is a document that's it's pretty much vetted so far. So that's what we have with the tribal consultation. And again, what I'll do is I'm going to update this information and then send it out to all the coordinators. And I'll also send this document to the Division of Indian Affairs, where they're going to send it out to all the tribal leaders. So now the tribal leaders basically have a pretty good idea of the updates that we have. And we'll stay close to this document throughout. And again, we'll probably visit this document again within another 2 or 3 years after we get to exercise these plans that we have. Are there any comments so far before we move on to the next segment
Dr. Foster, are you going to update them and then send them back to us?
Yes, I'm going to update that information, then send it to you guys. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
They'll also be put in that folder.
Yes.
Everyone has access to.
Right. Yeah. Renee will put this in the folder also. And this is going to be, I'm also going to put this on my website. So the other, oftentimes that when I do talk to the other Indian Ed directors in other states, they look at our website, and this is one of the things that I'd like them to take a look at, because this is a document that was developed by the Title VI coordinators. Okay. So if we don't have any other questions or comments, I'd like to switch gears.
Dr. Foster, I just want to add, this is Amanda again, under the state and national conferences and services, etc. There's another really good conference that we go to. It's called the At-Risk and Struggling Conference. And it's aligned with different conferences held at the same time, so you can kind of switch between workshops. It's aligned with the School Discipline Conference, and it's held in 2 locations, Atlanta and Las Vegas. We just go to the Las Vegas one because it's closer and less expensive.
Now, what was the name of that again?
It's called the At-Risk and Struggling Conference. And then it's also aligned with the School Discipline Conference. It's hosted by the Innovative School Summit, and it's held in July.
Oh, good. Okay. That's the At-Risk Struggling Conference. Okay. Thank you, Amanda. If there's no other comments on what we have, I have Sarah, who's the person that I talked to yesterday in reference to extra funding that may be in our grasp. So Sarah, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and you can introduce yourself and go through the funding source and the cycle and some of the information on that. And how we could become a little bit more involved in that. Hopefully that we could have something going for the summer.
You bet. Thank you so much, Dr. Foster. And nice to meet many of you. My name is Sarah Young, and I am our Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Utah State Board of Education. That is a pretty broad title, but most recently that has been being kind of one of our agency leads related to all of the federal relief that has been coming in due to COVID-19. So I appreciate the opportunity that Dr. Foster has shared in terms of being able to come and share with you a little bit more in regards to the details around that funding, allowable use cases, and then opportunities to kind of get involved in being able to access those resources to help serve the students that you advocate and lead for. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen to take you through a couple of slides. I think it's always helpful to have the slides yourself. And so with that, I am just sharing that link in the chat as well. So you're welcome to follow along either with my screen or viewing it directly on your own. Okay, so when we talk about COVID-19 relief in K-12 education, there's a very broad umbrella. And I always like to start with kind of the initial component, which is a lot of times when we receive money in education, because our resources are so stretched, the first question we go to ask is, what can I spend on? And although that is an important question in terms of what are the allowable expenses, we really are trying to help our LEA leaders take a step back and say, okay, that's not my first question. My first question is, how can I use this funding to demonstrate what would happen if we increased investment in education? This is a very unique opportunity where the state of Utah has ultimately received close to $1 billion of additional funding thanks to the different federal COVID relief efforts. And we can do one of two things with those funds. We can either use them in very one-time fashions, to be able to do, kind of a big technology procurement or, purchasing a new curriculum. Or we can use those funds to really invest in what we see as the needs of our community, and then use the data from those investments to go to our state legislature and advocate for the continuation of those funds in future years. So we're gonna encourage the latter, and that's why I like to start with that with every group we talk to. As far as the K-12 COVID relief funding for Utah, it breaks down into kind of four main components of money. I'm going to quickly touch on the first two, just so you have the history, but then we're really going to dive into Sr2 because that's the current plan that's available that many of our districts and charter schools are currently writing for. Even if you've already submitted for Sr2, there are opportunities related to making amendments to your existing plan, as well as what you'll see coming in regards to the most recent legislation where we have an Sr3 on the horizon. So the round one CARES funding was distributed to the K-12 community between May and September of 2020. We like to note that these funds are the first to be spent because they have to be spent by September 30th, 2022. To give you a quick overview, the original award in ESSER to our LEAs was over $61 million. And currently we've been able to reimburse about 30 million of that. So again, there is some opportunity there potentially with your LEA with existing funds from the first round that may not have been allocated and or used at this point. In addition to that, we also received what's here in green, which is our coronavirus relief funding. So these were much more targeted and specific efforts, specific to procuring personal protective equipment here in K-12 PPE. K-12 CRF was around classroom supplies, enhancements, and equipment to be able to meet the needs of COVID. We were able to do some support for the San Juan Broadband project, and then as well providing PPE and resources around the rapid COVID-19 testing. So I highlight those not because it's necessary for you to be involved in those plans, but more so to help you be aware that some of those really basic needs were addressed early on with funding, which then allows us to look at the new funds and say, how are we using this to better serve our students? Round 2, which is where we are right now, was passed in late December of 2020, and we still have an open application through the end of March for our LEAs to apply for funding from this particular set of awards. We always like to note that due to our federal funding guidelines, that an LEA actually has to expend all of their ESSER 1 funds before they can start requesting reimbursement for ESSER 2. That doesn't mean that you can't start engaging in those activities. It just means you won't be able to seek reimbursement for them until you've completely drawn down your first award. As far as the logistics go of how much did each LEA get in regards to this ESSER 2, it's the same distribution formula that we used for the original CARES funding as directed by our federal partners. We use a Title I formula distribution, which is what establishes the base award for each LEA. Now, noting that not every single district and charter school actually receives Title I funds, the state also took a step to establish a base, which for the purpose of ESSER 2 is at least $84,777. So that's the floor in terms of funding, and then you can potentially have more, and those allocations are available on our website. It's also important to note, like I said, it's due March 31st. You're probably going to hear me say that like 5 more times, mainly because that's next Wednesday, and we really just want to make sure that those plans are submitted by that time frame so we don't have folks missing out. When it comes to the ESSER 2 requirements related to the funding and use cases, the key aspect is that it really needs to address and take action to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 on students and families. So that's really the key requirement related to this funding. How are we mitigating some of those challenges that we heard speaking about earlier from Davis School District about students who went online, all of a sudden, are not participating in school. And what can we do about that using these funds as a resource to be able to make sure that the time, personnel, and resources that are necessary to be able to re-engage those students are ready and available. So for ESSER 2, there are actually a lot of federal use cases, which is why I gave you access to these slides, because I'm not going to go through and read every single one, but I am going to highlight some of the elements that I think would be most relevant to this group. The very first one is going to authorize any activity that's authorized under ESEA initially. So I share this because any of the great programming that's already happening and has been authorized through this particular program is included as an allowable use case related to ESSER funds. I will jump down to number 2, which speaks to the coordination and preparedness of the response effort for local education agencies with states, local, tribal, and territorial public health departments, other relevant agencies to improve coordinated responses to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. So as you're looking to, coordinate with the chapter houses and the different entities that you work within, this provides you then an authorization related to the funds and resources that are necessary to then take those visions and goals and turn them into action. I'm going to jump down into, so these are additional use cases. 4 is specific to serving, specific students, population groups. 5 is going to be around improving preparedness. 6 is around training and professional learning about sanitation and spread of infectious disease. 7 is specific to purchasing supplies to sanitize and clean buildings. 8 is around long-term closures. This is another really important one because it does provide resources to provide meals to eligible students, as well as the technology and different things that may happen if a school reaches a COVID threshold and has to move into a remote learning space. 9 is going to be our educational technology kind of effort and bucket. 10 is around providing mental health services and supports. I always like to highlight that one, noting that it's not just for students. That also includes the faculty and staff and individuals within the greater K-12 community that you work with. 11 is another key one that in talking with Dr. Foster, we wanted to highlight for this community. But there's an opportunity to plan and implement activities related to summer learning and supplemental after-school programs related to serving students. So this can be something that's planned for not just for this summer, but for next summer as well. And actually even the following summer, because they go all the way through these funds, Sr2, through September 30th, 2023. So what would that look like in terms of being able to meet the needs of students in these, outside of the traditional school year and school day capacity? As far as 12 goes, there's a high degree of focus around addressing learning loss or disrupted learning, as our state superintendent refers to it as here in Utah, for all of our students. They give some examples of what that can look like in terms of addressing assessments to figure out where our students are, implementing evidence-based practices to meet the needs of students, and then providing assistance to parents and families for how they can effectively support their students as well. And then 15 is just kind of a large category around what is necessary to maintain continuity of services. I will call out these two just so you're aware of them. In the federal guidelines, there were 2 additional use cases, one around improving school facilities and the second around improving HVAC systems. Due to state legislation here in Utah, if any LEA chooses to spend in those categories, we implement what's called a reverse match, and your state education dollars are reduced dollar for every dollar you spend in those use cases. It's basically a way around the federal law that says that they can't restrict these funds by restricting these funds. So again, just for your awareness, although that's on the list, we are not really encouraging our LEAs to do that because there is a negative financial incentive. So again, due March 31st, which gives you a lot of great opportunities to be able to reach out to members of your LEA leadership. I actually, and we talked about this yesterday with Dr. Foster, the #1 person that I recommend that any LEA start with is your business administrator, because they are overseeing the receipt of these funds and then the budgeting associated with all of the programs. I guarantee you your business administrator is involved in the creation of this plan, and they can let you know who else is involved and how can you communicate and make sure the needs of your students are being represented and receiving resources related to this opportunity. Aside from that, just a kind of highlight of what's coming next, we do have a second round of funding coming from a program called GEAR. This is the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. It hasn't been determined how the new governor has decided to award these funds, but in the previous round, he awarded all of it to K-12 to specifically address needs for students with disabilities as well as students at risk of academic failure. So we are still working with their staff, but this funding is also going to be coming available in the near future. So we just wanted to highlight that as well for the group. I'm not going to go into this. There is a program that's specific to non-public schools and private school partners. Ultimately, what that means is that an LEA doesn't have to provide equitable services related to the SR2 or Gear 2 funds. There's a separate program for them that you can direct them to that leaves them out of kind of the LEA scope and daily function. What's coming is in March of earlier this month, actually, the federal government passed the American Rescue Plan Act, or the ARPA. And this released another set of funds, close to $123 billion for K-12 education agencies, as well as funding for higher education, and then additional funding for the governors for private schools. That breakdown basically looks like a little over $615 million that will be available to the Utah K-12 education community, with 90% of it following that formula allowance in terms of Title I money. The state has a percentage that's a reserve. We're required to expend a certain amount on learning loss, evidence-based summer programs, and comprehensive after-school programs from a statewide level to be able to kind of address some of those greater needs across the community. For the upcoming ESSER ARP for Utah LEAs, or ESSER3 as it's more commonly referred to, 20% of the funds will need to be spent to address learning loss for students and really responding to not just their academic, but their social and emotional needs as well. So again, this is an application that hasn't been released yet. So we're giving you kind of a preview of what's to come, so that you have that opportunity to be involved in the creation of this plan once that application does go live. It also contains a new use case around implementing public health protocols, as have been shared by the CDC, and then also a requirement for a maintenance of equity. This basically means that in terms of the state level funding, they cannot disproportionately reduce funding to any of our schools or districts that serve our high poverty students to then shift resources elsewhere. Otherwise, you're not eligible for the award. I always like to highlight outside of our agency that there are also going to be 2 additional programs that are related to broadband resources to meet the needs of K-12 and others. The first is the Emergency Connectivity Fund. So that'll be administered through the Utah Education Telehealth Network, or UEN, as most people know them, as part of our E-rate program. And it's being expanded to be able to provide opportunities for LEAs to use that E-rate funding to be able to meet needs, not just for internet in the schools, which is what it's always been used for before, but to actually start to provide internet and support at the home level as well. In addition to that, there's a separate program called the Emergency Broadband Benefit. And this is another one where it's federal assistance that's coming through the providers. So your CenturyLink, your Comcast, those entities that already provide our internet services across the state. This will allow for households on tribal lands to receive up to $75 per month towards their internet bill and services to be able to get them connected and make it more cost affordable. Additionally, for up to $50 a month towards internet services for households that are not on tribal lands. Some of the providers will be providing also an incentive, a match incentive in terms of providing funding to be able to provide a computer towards an eligible purchase. And we just like to note that anybody who already participates in the Lifeline program, which is the cost-effective internet program that is already available in the state, automatically qualifies for this opportunity, in addition to other students as well. So to kind of wrap up where we are, I've spent a lot of time talking about the resources that are coming to K-12 education, but I like to share this visual, which actually demonstrates all of the COVID relief funding that has come to the state of Utah through different purposes and agencies. So this comes from our Governor's Office of Management and Budget and just shows all of the different funding that has come through and kind of giving you a sense of what the targeted agency was for that. Certainly, nearing the end, Utah's in a very interesting space when it comes to receiving this federal funding. Nationwide, most of our state K-12 educational systems are in a budget deficit space, and they have seen huge cuts due to economic and tax-based income efforts or impacts due to COVID-19. Utah is not in that space. And we actually saw this kind of come into play with the outcomes of the legislative session, where Utah K-12 education funding wasn't just steady, but it actually was increased in terms of the amount of resources we have for next year. So I share that because a lot of times we have to use federal relief funds to be able to plug gaps and holes. And we really shouldn't be in that space in terms of hitting the baseline budget and our consistent programming and efforts, which leaves a lot of great opportunity to really look at these funds and say, okay, so if I'm not using it to meet my basic budget needs, how can I use it to truly meet the needs of the students and families that were most impacted by this pandemic? And then demonstrate why this shouldn't be a one-time program. This needs to be an investment that we make as a state in the future. So with that, I've included both my contact information as well as Becky Donaldson, who is our coordinator for titled programs and, my partner on this effort, so that you have a point of contact if there are additional questions beyond today's presentation. But with that, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions I can answer now. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Dr. Foster. Well, it doesn't look like there's additional questions. So that is easy because there's so much information.
It's a lot of information.
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Right.
So I know it takes a minute. I would just personally, as a member of the agency and a great admirer of the work that you do, in partnership with Dr. Foster, I would really encourage you to be bold about, knocking on the doors of your LEA leadership and making sure that the needs of your students are being addressed. And I know that Dr. Foster has created some talking points for you. I know it can be hard, to kind of, jump to the highest levels of leadership and say, hey, we have needs over here. But I really encourage you to take that action step. Because I will say these decisions are being made very quickly. And we really want to make sure that the students that you represent and serve are being included in terms of resource allocation. So with that, I really appreciate you taking action to make sure that those needs are being met. And if there's anything we can do at USBE to support you in that effort, don't hesitate to let me know because we're here to provide that assistance and guidance related to use cases or could we do this and answering those questions so you feel confident in making that request.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. Just one point, I did send out the talking points and I think all the coordinators have that. And I think that one piece there, which I like, is the summer school and some of the activities that go with that. Some of the questions are, well, I guess we'll, after a while, we'll throw this information around because oftentimes that we don't have the Title VI sitting at the table and, that's one drawback. I think possibly with their supervisor and hopefully, they'll listen to the Title VI folks. But in the meantime, would the Title VI coordinators be able to start to put a program together possibly for the summer and write in some of the numbers as far as the budget and some of the activities that they may have, and they may not meet the deadline of next week, but you mentioned that this is for this summer and possibly next summer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So 2 pieces. So the original plan from LEAs are due next week. I will note that those plans are very high level. So they don't go into the, the details associated with, well, who are the individuals who will be teaching and what classes and what students. It's more so a large scale, high level proposal in terms of, we would like to host these classes, and we have an estimated budget of $50,000 related to these pieces. So that's one component, is just kind of staying high level to be able to meet that deadline. The second piece I'll say is that we do know that the Sr3 funds are coming. And so even if it's something where the decisions have already been made about resource allocation related to the Sr2, which is due next week, you should still move forward with those conversations and just know we want to be, considered and at the table as decisions are made for Sr3. The Sr3 awards will be more than double of what was allocated in Sr2. So there's a great opportunity there to be able to get in early for those conversations and make sure that that's a part of pieces that could begin as early as this summer.
Yeah, okay. Okay, any questions out there? Thank you again, Sarah. That was very good information that you gave us. And again, it's like drinking from a fire hose. But I think I'm much more focused on the talking points. I think those talking points is giving us a chance to focus on 4 areas. All this other stuff around it, that's some really heavy stuff. But I think because, I mentioned that because some of our students, and you heard that from Sarah, that even online, we're not meeting that threshold of staying in school or keeping up with homework, and maybe it's because of the lack of. Maybe it's technology they lack from their home, or something's going on. So, well, I appreciate that again, Sarah, and we'll with the rest of the time, I'm going to spend some time with them with updates and stuff. So again, I appreciate your help and your presentation.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you. Okay. That was a lot of information, people. Now, the talking points I was talking about, Amanda, did you have a comment? Okay, I guess not. Renee, could you pull up that Sr2 funding requests? I want to talk a little bit about that in terms of direction, because I think we need to lay a floor plan as to what we need to do next, because that deadline, I don't believe that we'll make that deadline, but we can start to make plans and give that information to our supervisor, and hopefully that will be kicked up to the business administration. Just as long as we're on the radar with that, and our supervisor as well as the business people know that we're aware of that this funding is there, we could start to make plans for ourselves with our programs. That information that I sent out yesterday, it says up on top, Utah State Board of Education, Title VI Sr2 funding requests. If you could pull that up, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. So far, anybody have any questions on this? Just your feelings.
Could somebody translate that in English, please?
Yeah, I know. I had to adjust yesterday when this all was coming down. So, and this has just happened yesterday,
You know, Dr. Foster, I think we're struggling with just getting the baseline of our program right now. Like the idea of like, I would like to nominate Eileen to figure all this out for us.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's another thing. Can we hand the ball off to you, Chuck, and you can apply for it, and you can distribute the funds?
See, that's the thing I'm looking at. As soon as she pulls up the document, I'll talk a little bit about my intention and how.
Is it not showing up?
No, it isn't.
Dr. Foster?
Yes.
This is Brenda. So in San Juan School District, they actually have our district leadership meetings. And so we've been going in and talking about how to apply for the funding. So I think this is something that will involve more people at each district to not only submit the application, but to come up with a plan on how to use the funds.
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking it's more a Title I basic thing that would help Title I distribute through all the needy areas. So,
right.
Dr. Foster, this is JM, and in Ogden School District, our superintendency and our superintendent is taking the lead. He is submitting the plan with all of our input, but
oh, good.
Yeah, so it's a little different at every district and LEA.
Yes. Okay. My effort here is that I think yes, this is the plan that no, that's this is the ESSA plan. There's one there. There's one more document there.
I don't know. I'm looking for them.
Okay.
With what you sent me.
Yeah, I did. But let me just talk a little bit about this. I think everybody would probably take a peek at it once we get away. It, the title up on top, it says Utah State Board of Education, Title VI programs, the Sr2 funding requests. I sent that information out to all you guys yesterday. What I'd like to do is for you to put your school district up on top. Instead of Utah State Board of Education, you would put Alpine School District up on top, Title VI programs, the Sr2 plan funding requests. This will give them a chance to see some of the information that we know about. Because if I was to take a survey across the board, I would put my money on that no one here knew about this. See,
I don't think I have this form.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think all the other coordinators should have that. But if you would take a look at that document, it starts out by saying that the Title VI program is a formula grant application from the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, ESSA, to assist American Indian, Alaska Native during their K-12 educational experience. It starts out by that, and down at the bottom, halfway through the page, it says the 4 talking points and are as follows. They asked me to write the 4 talking points yesterday, and I wrote this up as quick as I could in terms of what I think should be out there and what you guys are experiencing, because I feel that summer school would probably help with an enrichment flavor maybe, but we need to get them back in school. We're not going to catch them up. That's the bottom line. But to give these kids an opportunity to get back on track, because once they're on track, then I think we could see some differences in terms of test grades, attendance, homework, graduation rate, parent participation. These are all things I included in that in those 4 talking points. But and again, I think Sonia, you're correct on that. Everybody has something different to bring to the table. Now, the other piece that I just like to emphasize is that, like what Sarah said, this is going to be in a very general, it's going to be a general form that the districts are going to be submitting. Within that general form, you may have Title I, Title III, Title VI. See, with your Title VI program now, you start to anticipate what if you're going to have, if you're thinking about having summer school, what's going to be included in that summer school. I wrote down a few things here. Some of the things in the summer school, which I think for me, if I was running a program, I would say summer school. First is the salary for personnel. How many people am I going to hire? 3 or 4 people during the summertime. I'm looking at materials, books, supplies, and etc. with that. And what kind of training should I get before and after? The training with our parents during, before, during, and after. See, these are some ideas that I would put in that proposal if that opportunity comes to my school district. And I think everybody is going to be experiencing that. So just kind of anticipate that. But how many received that little document? Let me put it up on the screen that you can't see this. How many people received that? I sent it out yesterday.
I have it.
I got it.
It was on that email that had all the information.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was in that last email. It is there, Chuck.
Okay. If everybody can open up that last email and just kind of take a look at that after we get off. And if you have any questions, let me know, because I like to stay in front of this. Now I'm aware that USBE is receiving a large amount of money. How they disperse that, I don't want to be neglected as a Title VI folks not receiving anything. I think we owe this more to our students and our parents and our community than anything else. So I'll keep you updated on what all goes on. That's all I have today. Any comments? Any feelings?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I feel the same way.
It would be nice if we knew exactly what that meant and how we could apply for it, because definitely, like you said, we could use it with everything that's happened through this COVID with our families.
Yeah.
But I think for right now, I know I'm confused as to how to go about that and stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I think your school district was one of the first to submit that already.
Oh, good.
I understand. But see, you're not going to write anything. The only portion that you're going to be involved in is that when they come to you and ask that, now, what does Title VI programs need? And you would say, well, we need summer school, summer enrichment programs. And this is within the summer enrichment program, this is what we need. We need
like parent trainings, like
right,
educational trainings during the summer or something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All of that. Yeah. And again, everybody's going to approach this differently. So it's something that at least we know that there's funding now out there. And,
can we use it for food? Because that's the only way we can get our parents.
Yeah, I know, man. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think we could use that for food, not unless something breaks. I don't know. So.
I know that in our school district, Mike came to us about a week ago and mentioned, well, actually, we had already thought about the effects of the pandemic, and we have a team meeting every other week with the program, my Title VI program, and Mike over federal programs. and we told him that we needed a lot of help with helping high school students to catch up, because we were noticing a lot of the remote students were not handing in homework. So we went ahead and posted for 2 positions, Native American positions, for tutoring in our after-school homework labs. And actually, we've got one hired and one is in the process of, we're searching for that other person. Right. And almost have it completely down. But so I don't know. I know it always costs us about $12,000 a year to do our Camp Eagle summer school. Right. Hiring all the teachers that we bring in, and doing the math, the English, the arts program, the cultural program. We're doing one with archaeology and water this summer, and agriculture this summer. So I didn't even talk to him. I didn't realize, about this. Am I able to go back to him and then tell him, maybe we have a chance of being able to cover some of that cost, because we're already making plans for summer school during the month of June?
Yeah, that's going to be his call, but at least he knows that you guys are receiving a large amount, because all this millions of dollars, billions of dollars are coming, and that's not going to be spent until the end of 2023. So like Sarah says, it indicated that it could be used this summer and next summer. See, now we start making plans as to if we're not going to have a summer activity this summer, we start to plan for next year. But that has to be on the radar of your supervisor and with the business office, because they're going to start allocating this as soon as it's authorized. They're going to start allocating real quick.
Yeah.
I just want you guys to be aware that just stay in the loop with your supervisor and how that's all going to be worked out.
Chuck, hi. I'm sorry. Hi, Chuck. This is JM from Ogden. You can call us crazy and insane, but Ogden District, several months ago, we started working as a senior leadership team, reaching out to sites, everything we brainstormed. We are doing an entire district-wide summer program at every single site. It's all coordinated. They have to submit plans actually by tomorrow. We review them as a cabinet. Our superintendent approves. We're utilizing Sr3 funds and braiding our title and different funding sources to cover it. But here's the focus in a nutshell. Elementary, the requirements are, it has to have a K-3 literacy focus, has to mitigate student learning in the content areas, can either jumpstart or extend, it can include professional development, but must also include social emotional learning. For our secondary, it's credit recovery, mitigate student loss in the content areas, and we specified those, jumpstart or extend, and then SEL, social emotional learning, and the professional development. It's a very detailed form, and they have to include, it asks which students you're targeting, what's the purpose, what type of the programming. They have total freedom all summer of what it looks like. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, different sessions. It's up to them to decide that based upon the needs of the kids, and they must include our targeted most at-risk populations, Native American, migrant, EL, homeless, and our special education and educationally disadvantaged students. And so we are insane, we're crazy, and we're all going to be supporting them all summer, but that's what we've done, and that's how we're utilizing the money.
Right. See, that's a very, very good example. It's something that I think oftentimes that we don't have privy to that information, like what you just said. But I'm glad that you have that vision in terms of including all the minority groups and all the special services that you have for your special students. But I know that some other school districts, they don't have that privy. So that's the reason why this little note, the 4 talking points, if you submit that to possibly your supervisor and start to make conversation start out with a conversation that these are things that I think we would benefit from, especially when we're in this pandemic and we're a little behind. This will kind of enrich the people, and I think some of the other school districts like Ogden, they had that vision to have summer school at each site. I'm not so sure that some of the other school districts have that same vision, and some of the school districts are so large, it can't meet that obligation. But if you could again, if you could all read that information, and if you have questions, let me know, and we'll figure this one out. Is there any other comments or questions? I know today was a lot.
Two things, Chuck. Can we use this to hire an online person to, some of those school districts are struggling with online students, getting in contact with them?
I think, you get this information and go sit with Kevin and this, and indicate to Kevin that we're struggling with the online, or with our students. Online may be an opportunity for these students to catch up, because that oftentimes that the Title VI coordinators are not at the table when these decisions are being made, but your supervisor does. So that's where you come in, and you talk with your supervisor and say, Kevin, these are the areas that we're struggling in. We're struggling with student development, with maybe keeping up with their homework, and online would be one opportunity. But then it leads you to another question: do they have technology in their home? Do they have broadband? Do they have internet services and stuff like that? And the other one is that the parents are being left behind also. You got to bring those parents up to speed also. Parent meetings that you're going to have, parent workshops or training, something that would entice the parents to come back. I know that a lot of the parents have left, and they're not coming back until all this is all gone. The pandemic has disappeared. But see, I think we can make a straight cut on some that information. And the third thing is probably with the materials, books, supplies that we may have for our program. We're never short of the materials, books, or supplies, especially the books. There's a lot of information out there to get our books, and to supply one of these elementary schools in their library with a number of books of American Indians. See, there's a number of things. There's a lot of brainstorming that you could do, and bringing some ideas together here. So that's a good question, Eddie.
Dr. Foster, is there anybody with like a good book list of appropriate elementary books that we could share? Does anybody have one? No.
I guess I take that as a no. The only books I have information-wise is things that come through the internet, and that's the information that usually I'll send out. But I got to make sure that this is all appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what the extra funding you gave us. That's what I'm trying to do for our 5 most populated elementary schools, is get them at least 10 to 15 Native American books, that are specific to each tribes, and just books that in general are appropriate for our teachers and students to use.
Yeah.
That's what I'm using that extra funding you gave us for.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That's what we're using it for in Canyons also. The exact same purpose. We should probably get a Utah Title VI coordinators reading or textbook list started on a Google Doc or something.
Yeah. I think that would be a very good idea. We we ask for resources, and if you look at the consultation information, there's information on their resources. It could be local, it could be it generated in a group or a region.
This is Amanda at Grant. Didn't Elaine's presentation last time, didn't they have a website of book lists that they were using? Yeah, I don't know if Elaine's still on or not.
Yeah, Eileen, you can answer that, Eileen.
Yeah, it's that American Indian Children's Literature website. I put it in the chat, and I love that. When you go into that website, Debbie Reese does a fantastic job of looking at every book, making sure that it's culturally represented in the right way for children to read and everything. She has the top 10 list for elementary age, for junior high, for high schools. And she has a whole list. So definitely check out that American Indians in Children's Literature blog spot. I also like to use San Juan School District's Media Center. I buy one of every book that they have in that thing. And then another one that we like to use is Salina and Utah Education Association. Has a lot of great ideas for children's books that are accurate. So
thanks, Eileen.
Eileen, could you link that website in the chat?
She did the American Indians and Children's Literature. She linked that one in the chat.
Great, thank you.
In one of our videos, we did a whole resource list at the end of the video. We always try to, for our teachers, we make our videos so that it can be shared throughout our school district, but anybody is welcome to use it and adapt it and everything for their area. And at the end of each, a lot of the videos when we're working with teachers, we always list the resources for books, for lesson plans, for all of that. So, and on our website too, we've got a lot of lesson plans and everything in our website.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other comments? And again, I guess, Renee, you'll catch all of this information if you can, and we can put it in our folder.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If there are no other questions, comments, hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for your attendance, and we'll keep you guys updated, and stay safe, and have the rest of the day. Have a nice day. Hey, thanks, guys.
Hey, Chuck.
Thank you.
Chuck, are you going to be there next Wednesday?
What's that?
Are you going to be attending our meeting next Wednesday at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, I'll be on the Zoom. Yes.
Okay.
And Renee's making that arrangement. I think she made that arrangements already. It's Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
I think it was 1, but yeah, sure. I'll look at my email again. Hey, can I, if I send Renee the other people that I want on the Zoom, can I just send that to her?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll go on it.
Oh. All right. Again, thank you. And we'll see you the next time around.
Thanks.